Hello AP Biology students, let's go over the sixth section in Unit 2. And in this section we're going to go over the structure of the membrane. Let's remember that all cells are going to have an outer membrane that's going to be the separation between the outside and inside of the cell. Now these membranes are going to be made of a molecule known as a phospholipid, and this phospholipid has a polar head and a nonpolar tail. They are going to orient themselves in a bilayer with the tails pointed on the inside and the heads on the outside. Within the membrane, we're also going to have these things called membrane proteins that have a lot of different functions. But like I said previously, the membrane is going to be made of a bilayer or two layers of phospholipid molecules. Another molecule that's going to be incorporated in this bilayer is something called cholesterol. And this cholesterol is going to help make the membrane more fluid. As you can see, these cholesterol molecules are going to be peppered throughout the whole membrane. One of the structures that you're going to see in the membrane is something called a glycolipid and a glycoprotein. Now, if we break down those words, glyco means sugar, and then we're going to be referring to either a lipid or a protein. And basically what these molecules are referring to are just carbohydrate chains that are going to help the cell recognize your cells versus things that aren't your cells. And like you can kind of guess, the glycoprotein here is going to be made up of sugar molecules attached to a protein molecule, while a glycolipid is going to be made of sugar molecules attached to a phospholipid. Again, these are just little kind of markers that the cell is going to use to identify self versus non-self cells. Now, the membrane proteins we kind of talked about before are going to have two different main groups. They're going to be called integral and peripheral. Integral proteins are going to be proteins that span the whole membrane. You can see these yellow ones spanning that whole membrane. The peripheral proteins, on the other hand, are going to be attached to either a protein, a lipid, or on the outside of a cell membrane. The location of a protein, whether it being an integral protein or peripheral protein, is going to help regulate what its function is for the cell. For example, a type of integral protein is known as an aquaporin, and like the name implies, it's going to be a channel where water passes through. This is going to be really important because we're going to start talking in the later sections about what molecules can and cannot pass through the membrane. Membranes are known as selectively permeable or semi-permeable. This just means that only certain molecules can move freely past the membrane. As you can see here, some molecules like water need the transport protein to make their way into the cell, while other molecules can move freely without a protein past the cell membrane, and other molecules can't make it past no matter what. Typically, nonpolar molecules make it past easily versus the polar molecules, which typically need energy. So again, you can see in the diagram here, large molecules as well as ions, they don't move past this membrane very easily, while smaller molecules and usually uncharged nonpolar molecules can move freely past this membrane. This is another one of my favorite memes. You can see the cell membrane here liking nonpolar molecules, but not liking the polar ones.